I was in a car accident on August 9th. I'm a teacher and I was leaving school that day.
5 years ago, I became a trauma patient. A bicycling accident that occurred in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
I was lying there seeing my dad in a coma, and I just remember this numbing silence.
When a family first experiences a traumatic injury, their entire world is turned upside down without a moment's notice. Often families race to Vanderbilt from many counties away, faced with taking up residence in waiting rooms without so much as an overnight bag.
The interesting thing about trauma is that it affects everyone. It can happen to the rich, to the poor, to the young, to the old. It's debilitating and it's instantaneous.
It was the first day of school. A car hit the driver's side, and when the ambulance arrived, the paramedics noticed that I had some sort of brain injury, and that's when they decided to call Life Flight, and I was at Vanderbilt Trauma Unit within 20 minutes. It was very difficult for my family. They were physically tired from having to sleep in chairs and mentally seeing their daughter in the hospital and not knowing the future for her, and they were very, very thankful for the Trauma Survivors Network.
As I was lying there seeing my dad in a coma and he was bleeding, that this doctor who was trying to answer some of our questions and fears really saw us as a person. We're just not another number coming through there. Let's face it, when you have a traumatic injury, you're not thinking clearly. And so with a staff, an organization that is going to help this family get through this process, they've been through it before.
Few trauma centers in the country offer the kind of comprehensive care that goes well beyond mending broken bones. The Trauma Survivors Network, or TSN, fills in critical gaps in each patient's care, rehabilitation, and their eventual return to the community.
I think the most important part of TSN is looking at those words. Trauma Survivor Network. It really embodies what a family is going through. They're going through trauma, which they may not know how things are going to turn out. Survivor is what Vanderbilt's really going to share with the family. To do that, they've got to do it through a network of people. They've got to do that with other families who've gone through it. They've got to do it with the medical staff. They've got to do it with the nurses, the doctors. It's really a team of people coming together to give a patient and family some hope that they will get through this process and rely on that network of professionals to carry them through that trauma.
The first night that my husband was there, I met the charge nurse, and she continued to encourage me for the next 3 days that fast doesn't last, that slow is good. And it was a process, it was a slow process, but I think Ray is just one of the successes that Vanderbilt can speak to.
As a pastor, I have an opportunity to visit many hospitals in the area. And over my career as a pastor, I just had nothing but high regards for the care and treatment that I received here. And I think this Trauma Survivors Network is an integral part of helping people on the road to recovery.
I've practiced facial surgery and treating traumatic facial injuries for over 20 years, and thought I fully appreciated treating the patient and what that entailed. But about 5 years ago, I became a trauma patient. A bicycling accident that occurred in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Unfortunately, I'm here as a survivor and really understood going through that process how much it takes in regard to support after repair of the injuries and the recovery that can take extended periods of time. Patients and families are going on uncharted ground. They really need assistance to help negotiate through that process and support them. And I think the Trauma Survivors Network has those resources and support system in place to help facilitate the total healing over time.
I didn't feel like I was forced to move it along quickly. However, I felt I have to be back there with them. I have no children yet. Those are my kids. I love those kids. I worked so hard to get back so quickly, and I'm so happy I did.
That's where the Trauma Survivors Network comes in. Think of us as an orientation packet to the rest of your life, helping you adjust to your new normal. From day one, patients and their families are guided through the entire recovery process, from what to expect in the hospital, to planning for rehabilitation and physical therapy, to counseling for grief and depression, and a shoulder to cry on from actual families who have been through the experience before, offering their insight and hope.
5 years ago, I was in a motorcycle accident, and that was put me at a T4 brake, which is a nipple line down. With what's to expect of it and what's to come from it, everything that you've once done, you can still do, brother. Anything. You name any sport there is, I still play, still participate in. I went back to college, graduated from there, got married, about to start having kids. And God's definitely push him to strive, work harder, be as best as he can be.
We are literally building from the ground up a social network of people who have been there before, so that no one has to do this alone. That's why we need your help. Your support of Vanderbilt's groundbreaking Trauma Survivors Network will help fund critical educational materials for patients and their families, counseling for post-traumatic stress disorder, grief, and bereavement, peer visits by former patients and families affected by trauma, and resources for everyday items like toothpaste, shampoo, coupons for local restaurants, and information on short and long-term housing options. And you'll have the satisfaction of knowing that what we do first here at Vanderbilt can provide the foundation for similar support networks throughout the country.
Your efforts will allow us to continue to help trauma survivors on their road to recovery. Please consider giving to the Trauma Survivors Network.